Let's go. All right, here we are, the Don Cherry's Grapevine, and we're ready to go. And Cindy's with us, and Dell's with us, and
yeah, Dell's with us because I got in trouble last time. Dell wasn't at the controls, and I forgot to hit record. And we did our opening, and then we had to redo it. So Dad fired me, and now Dell's back at the board.
And because of that, let me say, we've got to pat ourselves on the back. I just want everyone to know, and out there, we got voted by Apple being the biggest new show of 2020. Wow. And when you sent me that email, I was so excited.
Yes, that's something. We're at we're a little bit over a year now, and almost 2.5 million downloads, 2.3.
Have we been doing this for a year?
Over
Almost?
a year.
Holy smokes.
Seemed that year.
Yeah.
That they listen to it all down in the States too. You don't count that. You know?
They're a little taste of Canada.
John Winsick. I remember I mentioned John. I just happened to mention John Winsick. I phoned him, or he phoned me, and I phoned him, and he's doing pretty good. He's taking care of a big ranch. And
he's in St. Louis now, right?
He's in St. Louis, and he's just driving along in the car, and our show come on. I think a lot of it is that we never have any swearing in it. I really do. In my books or anything, I don't have any swearing. I listen. When I coached, I was bad. And I told you the story, and when I see all those big fluting guys, the Molsons and all those guys sitting back of the bench in Montreal, I often think how Pat Burns, how he ever could coach, and not, you'd have to, all the wives are there and everything like that. And I have to tell a story. I'll tell it again. Believe it or not, in the Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens, the people used to walk with the hot dogs and everything while the game was on.
Right behind the bench.
The bench.
There was no.
You'd be talking to a player, and a guy, excuse me, it'd be a guy with a hot dog. So they finally put two policemen at the sides. You can't go in till there's a timeout or something. And I was, and I have to admit, I was bad swearing. And boy, I remember this like it was yesterday. And up about 12 rows, there was a little old lady about my mother's age. And she said, Cherry, and in the silence, and she said, Cherry, you got a filthy mouth. Oh, and I just felt so bad, honest to God. And I went up while the game was on, and I sat on the steps there, and I sat beside her, and I really felt bad because my mother.
So while the game was on, you could go right up from the bench,
you could just walk
right
up.
right up into the stands.
And boy, she didn't. She was still ripping mad at me, and I said. I never forgot this. I said to her, really, ma'am, I said, you've heard that language before. Yes, but I didn't pay $200 to hear it. So the rest of the game, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't know. If that one word was taken out of hockey, then the word begins with an F. If that was taken out of hockey, then hockey would fail.
It would collapse.
Well, your mother was an influence because I remember when we used to watch the games when I was in Kingston with her. She was always upset the way you chewed gum on TV.
Yeah.
You know
what it is? I honestly believe I had to chew it because of nerves. You know what I mean?
But you chewed it with your mouth open.
Oh, was that it?
That was it, because you used to open your mouth a lot. And Anna would say, I used to call my grandmother Anna. She'd say, where did he learn that? He never used to chew gum like, first of all, he shouldn't be chewing gum, let alone have his mouth open.
I see myself sometimes, son. Well, they don't show
it. Well,
a
lot of times when you were mad, you'd take the gum out and you'd throw it.
Throw it, yeah.
Can I tell you a quick story about you throwing your gum behind the bench when we were filming the movie, and Jared Kiso, who played you, he came to me and said, Cindy, he goes, I'm behind the bench. He goes, was there any characteristics that your father used to do behind the bench when he was coaching? She goes, when he was upset. I says, well, he'd pull up his pants a lot. I says, but the one thing when he used to get really upset, he goes, what? And I said, he'd get his gum and he'd throw it on the ground. Like that was the ultimate. When you got that gum and threw it on the floor. And he goes, really? And you know what? He did it behind the bench. And when it was on the movie, when I was watching it, I told him to do that. I told him to do that. that was a
good.
Big thing.
You know who used to do that all the time was Pat Quinn.
Right.
Pat Quinn used to throw his gun.
And you were only Juicy Fruit. Remember when you said it was Juicy Fruit? Juicy Fruit sent you a cold carton of gum?
I remember Nate Angelo when I was in Rochester. I guess we must have won a game when I was using Juicy Fruit. And he didn't have any Juicy Fruit. And he sent the guy before the game. Guy said, the stick boy, he said, now go downtown and buy some Juicy Fruit. The guy said, what are you, nuts or something? The game's going to start. Get some Juicy Fruit if he doesn't have his Juicy Fruit. So I used to chew Juicy Fruit all the time. And anyhow, that's what we were talking about. And we have a good time. And I'm glad you're back. And
we just again thank all the listeners for voting us.
Yes.
Well, helping us get Apple to vote us the biggest show of 2020. So.
Well, no, I know how we get into it. There's no swearing in it. And I think that
yeah, sometimes I listen to the other podcasts, and sometimes I think they swear just to swear.
Effect.
Yeah, and it loses its effect.
Well, it does, and I always said to my son, if you swear, it's got to have a point to it when you swear. There's got to be a point.
You know, when I now that I can say it, but I used to be down there, and I was like with the women. Like women to me are on a pedestal. Really, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it is. It's true. And some of the guys used to swear in front of the girls, and
where on Hockey Night in Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I used to think, geez,
And they probably just swear to swear, right?
Well, I think they swore they got their. Well, anyhow, and I remember one girl said, it was Kathy Broderick, who used to run Hockey Coach's Corner, and she says, well, it doesn't bother me. She said, well, it bothers me. And I remember the very first time ever, I remember I was in the island, and we had lost, and I was in the game, and I was walking in the dressing room, big dressing room in the island too. And I turned around, and there's a young girl, and the guys had no clothes on. Oh, jeez. My face went red. I didn't know what to say. And some guys, most of the guys are good guys. Like, they put it tough. But some guys, and we won't mention their names, they knew they shouldn't be in there. I don't think they go in there now, do they?
No, I don't think they. I don't even think they bring guys out. And then
that's what I wanted to do. I did the same thing in Boston.
You were before your time.
Yeah, I said, now look, if anybody you want, I'll bring out and.
Yeah, but I don't think any reporters go in now.
No.
I think they have, like, they bring them out on the table and they do the interview and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. I remember Sundin when he used to be interviewed. He was the captain. I watched things like that. Before everyone, they'd ask him a dumb question. Are you upset because you lost? And he'd go, jeez, I gotta answer this question. Yeah, I'm upset. And
you almost scored that goal to tie it. Did you
feel
upset
bad?
You missed that net? I'm sorry, I missed the net.
Yeah, you start every question. Oh. And I think Mike Milbury had the best question or the best answer or whatever. When he was GM, one of the reporters asked him if he was upset that he lost the game. And he says, there's some village whose idiot is not there. It's lost his idiot. I thought that was pretty good.
Well, John Tortorella, my favorite coach of the NHL, he shows.
Why is he your favorite coach?
Well, because of his foundation that he has, and he rescues pit bulls, of course, down in where he is down in the States.
I knew that. I just thought of that.
Well, but I mean,
his son's overseas in the SEALs department.
That's right, and he shows his contempt pretty good for those stupid questions.
Man.
Boy, he sometimes he just gets up and leaves. I don't know how he does it.
I like it.
He got fined big this year for doing that.
I always felt, except in Colorado, I guess there was one guy there whose father owned the newspaper, and he was a football guy. He knew nothing about hockey. It just used to drive me nuts, a little wee weasel. And he knew nothing about hockey. He knew football, but he knew his father or something was anyhow. But I always felt that the reporters had a job to do, And that's their job. And no matter how, but the guys in Boston, I mean,
you learned you don't go to war with the media.
Oh yeah, but in Boston they were great. Every one of them knew hockey better than I did, and they were great. I remember the very first time I got a call from Harrison, and he said, "I got the head of the reporters up here, Tom Fitzgerald." And remember Tom Fitzgerald? He's the only guy I ever knew that used to have his nails polished. No, he was a real good guy, but he used to have his nails polished. So I go up the office, and he just spit. He was a little guy, but he spoke like a Boston. I loved the people, the way they, ka. And anyhow, he you know what it was he wanted? He was sick and tired, he said, of going in the dressing room and nobody there. I never went in the dressing room. Win or lose, I never went in the dressing room. And what happened was Bobby Orr, because Bobby was there, all the reporters would crowd around him, and he wouldn't ask anybody else any other question. So Bobby used to go in the training room, so somebody and everybody else started to go in the training room, and there was nobody there, being one or two guys. So I said, well, I'll talk to him. But boy, Tom Fitzgerald, I never forgot him. He was a little Irish guy, and dressed sharp and everything, and he talked like a boss, and he just gave it to me like you couldn't believe. And I didn't even know anything about it.
So,
Bob,
Dad, you said something interesting there. You never went into the dressing room after the games to say good game, bad game, you did this wrong.
What am I going to say? Good game, guys. You know the big thing.
I don't get that.
I have to tell you a funny story about Bobby Miller. Bobby Miller was and I think they do it in the National Hockey League. They do it in junior hockey now. But when the coach, I remember the very first time when I coached the prospect game, and I went in and I said something stupid, I say, let's go, guys, and everything, and they all clapped. I said, what the? And I found out later they all clapped for everything. So I didn't. And then you watch them in the National Hockey League now. The guy come on, guys, we got to get going here now. This is a good team and all that. And when he's finished, they all clap. So I remember the very first time Bobby Miller, Milbury was a college guy, but he was pretty sharp. He knew.
Well, he knew you from Rochester.
Well, he was pretty sharp. Oh yeah,
So he knew your style.
Yeah. So I went in and said something, come on, we got to win this game or something like that. And at the end, Bobby Miller clapped, and what in the world? Like, and nobody else was clapping. They were like, oh, did you like that speech, Bobby, or something? I don't. And I told him, don't clap after a speech after. He's embarrassing. And he said, well, that's what we do in college. And I said, well, don't do it.
Well,
here.
Just getting into that, we're going to talk about the World Juniors coming up and hockey in a minute.
We ever get to it.
But there's it's funny. It's like some of the Americanization that comes into the game. Clapping, all that. But the other thing too that I remember is when you coached, all the guys would have their sticks with the blade down on the bench.
Oh yeah.
And so you're holding it with the blade on the bottom, like on the floor. And now if you look, and in college, for some reason, they did it the other way, and they had the blade up.
The blade's up?
The blade's up.
Yeah,
and
I used to...
And now if you watch, all the guys, when they're on the bench, their blades are up as opposed to having the blades down. And that was a college thing. One of the first guys I saw do that was Scott Mellenby.
Oh, is that right, eh?
Yeah.
See, I want you to think about something. Ron McLean and I had a big argument about this. I said, I would never, ever put my stick on the floor.
Oh, with all that spit and everything.
Spit and all that. And then they take well, I hate to say it, it's disgusting. But then when they bring it up, it's ready to go, actually. It's better. But when imagine you.
And their gloves then
touch and all that stuff and all the spit and all that stuff. And disgusting, I know. But you're right. You see the guys... You see, most of the guys now have their
when they're sitting
blade
on the bench, the stick blade is up.
Well, Americanization, if you wanted to go on that,
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll do a whole show of that one.
We do a whole show. Not only are the Americans, now I hear they want to put the stickers and everything on the helmet.
Yeah, to help with the lack of tickets.
Yeah. Well, we'll go into that someday. Okay, let's talk.
Okay,
All right.
well, first of all, let's thank our sponsor, Spreads.ca, the First Nation-owned online casino and sports books tailored for Canadians. And hopefully hockey will be back, basketball will be back. So they must have been hurting. There's no sports out.
Yeah, I watched the basketball. It looks like it's like a they don't. I don't know. They don't look. Hockey, it looked good.
Yeah, basketball doesn't look good. So if you sign up now, enter promo GRAPES, and they'll match your deposit up to $500. You get 15 spins on the big wheel to make some big dough. And your first sports bet, they'll give you a $25 free sports bet to start. And that's spreads.ca. So thanks for them. And so, Dad, the World Juniors are coming up, and starts Boxing Day. And but you and I were kind of shocked when they did.
Shocked is the word. That's a good word. Shocked is the word. Shane Wright is going to be a superstar in the National Hockey League.
He got 39 goals. He was an underage, so he was 39 goals for Kingston, who was not a very strong team.
39 goals, 36 assists. I wrote it down. Now, I know this league is for 19-year-olders. Everybody they try, but this guy is an exceptional. Well, we saw him play. Remember, it was 14 or 15. We saw him play.
First time we saw him play was 13. Yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny story. His agent came to me. What he used to do. He used to go and sit on. He'd get over the blue line and he'd go to the right or to the left on the boards, and he'd start passing. He looked to pass the puck. So yeah, and I said, which one's his agent? I think you showed me his agent. I says, tell him, guys that score goals drive a big Cadillac. Guys that don't score goals, that pass, drive a lesser car. I say a lesser car. And I said, Oates, Adam Oates is the best passer I've ever seen. He set up Brett Hall, set up Brett Hall for 76 goals, and Mike Keenan wouldn't sign him, wouldn't give him $200,000 more. So, and Hall went to him and said, I'll give you him off my money, keep him around. And then he let him go. But Adam Oates was the best passer I've ever seen and set it up. And, you don't hear, but you hear the guys that score the goals. And by God, the next game he got a hat trick.
Yeah. Well,
you had the same conversation with Max.
Yeah, and I told Max.
Pass, and all this. And
yeah,
they
Max.
used to yell. And now.
Well, the coaches tell him because they're so good. Max was so good. Max Domi was so good that he used to set guys up. You gotta. Nobody cares about assists. I hate to say it. All they look is goals. Look at Peter McNabb, eh?
Yep. Well, the thing with Shane Wright is that they again, the tournament is a 19-year-old tournament. That's what everybody says, right? That you want to have as many older guys as possible, and he's young. Like he'd be 16. So
he won't be around for a 19-year-old. He'll be
No, he won't be. He won't be
He'll be gone. Like Lafreniere, they're not letting Lafreniere go. No. New York, and I don't blame him. A lot of people say, well, why doesn't he play in that series? Well, we know, Tim. We own the Mississauga Ice Dogs. We were all set. Who was the guy's name that they broke his ankle? I forget anyhow. He broke his ankle. We had
our number one pick.
He goes overseas, and I remember going out to practices. We get bad news. He broke his ankle, and he was Dougie Gilmore. He was.
Yeah. He never really recovered from that.
No, he never ever came back. But I'll tell you one thing, boy. Before he broke his ankle, he was like. And I don't blame Lafayette. I don't. You
don't blame the Rangers for that.
No, I don't blame.
But here's the thing that I don't get, and again, that he's going to make the team next year. Like for sure, he's going to make the team. And then the year after that, he's going to be the number one guy. So why wouldn't you let him go this year, even if he, just to kind of get a feel of what it's like?
He would be the number one center. I honestly believe that. Kingston doesn't know what they have in him. He will be. He won't. He plays like Crosby, and you wonder how he plays like. He won't be as good as Crosby. No, well, he might be, but I don't think he'll be as good as Crosby. But he plays like Crosby.
Right. But again, he got 39 goals, so only 2 guys on the team have more goals than him that are on that team now.
Skates with his feet, like how Crosby skates with his feet wide. That's how he skates.
You look at him, he looks just like Crosby. But again, and you and I, Dad, have always talked about that. I don't understand Hockey Canada not having a full-time coach.
I mean, I'm not knocking this guy, and I hope to. And I get so nervous at these games. The only games I get nervous at are these junior games. I want them to win so bad, and I hope. And I know somebody's made the team that if Crosby is around, he would have made. I get so nervous at the game, and they should have. Never mind a GM. A GM means. What is a GM? Means nothing on this club.
So, because as you were saying, and Dale Hunter kind of did this last year. Like, he picked guys that, well, you know what, he might not be the best guy, but, I like the way he kills penalties. Or this defenseman, I like the way he
Tim, tell a story about Mark Hunter the first time we met Mark.
Yeah, so, again, remember last year, the World Juniors, Mark Hunter was the GM and Dale was the coach. And that worked well because Mark and Dale know exactly what kind of team.
I think he went around and looked at everybody.
Oh, he went all over and saw all the players, so And so the first game against the Russians, Canada, if you remember last year, got beat 6-0, and it was a blowout. I mean, if the goalie wasn't stopping at the head, it might have been 10-0. So, and then everybody dumped and all that. But then they come back and they win the gold medal. So we're out scouting, and it's like a Wednesday night at 10 o'clock down at Iceland's. And
it was cold.
It was cold, and Mark was out there. Mark Hunter was scouting for London Knights, and he comes over and we said, "Oh, congratulations, Mark." And he goes, Dale and I are.
I know. I said, "Boy, that must have been great experience." He says, the one thing I remember. Go ahead, tell.
So he goes, He goes, "Yeah, great experience." He says, "We lose the game 6-0, and he says, I look in the newspaper, and the headlines are Mark and Dale Hunter, most overrated minds in hockey."
And that's what he remembers about the junior hockey.
That's the first thing. It wasn't, great, Don, we scored that goal and we won. And Dale put out, that guy, and he scored the goal in the last minute and everything. It was, nope, he says, we were called the most overrated minds in hockey when we got beat 6-0. Yeah. But I mean, I just, but that's...
And they won.
They won. And, just the one thing I want to say, too, about, Hockey Canada is, you look at Shane Wright right now, right? Shane Wright. And he's preparing to become a National Hockey League superstar. Hockey Canada does very little to prepare him for that. It's the CHL owners that are doing it. It's like the Springers and Cool and Kingston. They're paying the coaches. They're paying the assistant coaches. They're paying the video coaches. They're paying, they make sure he's got a good billet. They make sure.
And we know how expensive it is.
Right. And, they got to pay for the equipment, and he's paying for their skates, and he's paying.
They do it for the love of the game.
Yeah. And he's making sure of all the ice. He's got all the. So he's flitting the bill for him to become a professional. And for some reason, now in the media, the owners of the CHL teams are the bad guys. And because you got all these goofs like Carcillo and all those guys, trying to get attention. And so the CHL, they're the bad guys. You're taking advantage of these kids. And there's no way Kingston makes money. Kingston loses money.
No way they could make money.
And
we don't know why we're picking on Kingston, but it's true.
It's because Springer he's the guy at the end of the day that is flitting the bill, that is paying all the dues, that's allowing Shane Wright to become an NHL superstar. And that, Elliot Kerr and Mississauga and all those guys, they all lose money, and yet there's guys that have played in Mississauga who are going to go to the National Hockey League and got drafted, and now they're the bad guys. And
there's one thing, Tim, that you explained to me. Explain again about goaltenders. Now, I know that I'm hitting you cold with this, but tell about that two years in between that the goaltenders are good in junior. I think the nationally politically correct. They have European goaltenders come back in. But before that, there is 2 years that they sort of like in...
Yeah, we kind of talked to this before, is that when they get drafted at 16, the goalies don't the goalies in the CHL, they usually don't make the CHL team, so they got to go play either midget or tier 2. And midget hockey's not that, it's not that strong anymore. And tier 2, again, he's a young goalie, and the guys usually play the older goalies more. And
you can't blame the coaches because they want to win.
They want to win. So, it's not till a lot of times these goalies don't get to the OHL till they're 18.
Whereas in Europe, they just keep playing them.
Yeah, and then so what happens is it's almost like a little bit of a lost year. They don't develop as well as they should. And then what happened was they stopped the European goalies coming over, which forced the OHL teams or the CHL teams to bring the goalies in earlier and give them more experience. And then what happened was they brought the European goalies, and then what they do, a lot of the teams do, is they on their European draft, they draft older goaltenders. So they bring them in here, and the goalies are 18, have been developing, over in Europe, and then they come in, and it makes it tougher for the younger Canadian goalies to break into the CHL.
And to be politically correct, we have they did it for about 3 or 4 years, and then somebody must have complained, the human rights or something, complained that they're not. I always remembered something like that was when. Now this is going back when Gretzky was in his heyday, and. I remember a MiG pilot stole a plane, him and his co-pilot, and they landed in Czechoslovakia or something like that. And so they brought them to the embassy, and the embassy they don't say Canada, they say Canada. It's not Canada, it's Canada. Well, tell us about. They got the two interpreters and that they said, tell us about. Well, it'd be very interesting to know what the pilots think of Canada, our bilingualism and our multiculturalism, and they're all elite over there and everything. And the pilot said, "Hockey, Gretzky." No, don't say hockey, Gretzky. No, please don't say that. Don't tell the reporters. No, when you think of Canada, when you think of Canada, what do you think of? And the two pilots said, Gretzky, hockey. And they were all ticked off at that. I remember the newspapers. The one thing we're noted for in the world, I know, I lived in the States a long time. The one thing we're noted for around the world is that hockey players. Well, what else are we, I hate to say it, what else are we noted for?
You know what it is in the States? It's the weatherman saying a cold front coming in from Canada.
Yeah, but I was down there.
That's about it. That's the only thing they talk about in Canada.
Yeah, it's not when it's hot, a cold front coming down.
No, it's either hockey or there's a cold front coming down from Canada that's going to bring snow. That was the extent of the U.S.-Canadian...
I'll never forget, as God is my judge, I'll never forget, I was driving back and Rose was coming back in Hershey. I asked her, I said, do you know anything about Canada? She says, we never, ever. Well, Cindy, you went down. Did you ever learn anything?
No, nothing about Canada. We knew, you know what? We learned all about Mexico.
Yeah.
Mexico was the big country that we learned about. But Canada, no.
Rose said, I used to kid her all the time, and say things. And her mother saying, now remember when you hit the border, put on your sweater. And that really ticked me off when I heard that. Anyhow,
so Tim, I've got a question for you. Like you bring up Hockey Canada and everything, and I really don't know the answer to this. Maybe you can enlighten me and a lot of people out there. What is, you see their logo all over the place and this and that. What is Hockey Canada? Is it a government agency? Is it an incorporated company? Is it non-for-profit?
I don't know. Like, I kind of looked in. I try to look just briefly because I know we were talking about it. I don't know if it's like, as you say, like this.
Is it a registered non-for-profit, or is it an incorporated company?
No, it's not for profit.
No, but you can have like a registered non-for-profit, like it's a business, but yet you can't make money. That's a non-for-profit incorporated company.
I don't know. I'll try to, if somebody out there that knows what it is, go on the Rock'em Sock'em Facebook page or message us on the thing, because I don't know. I'm not sure. Like I talked to one guy and he said it is part of the government agency.
Well, that's what I thought.
That is amateur sports. It's in that person's.
Well, it's pretty clear. The coaches are. I don't know about the players, but the coaches are. one we have Ontario, then we'll have Ontario, Quebec, and then we'll have Western.
Yeah, but so then there you would think that so it's politically correct. It might be government orientated, like the CKC, for dogs.
Right.
If the guy is from Quebec, Tim, and he's a good coach, and he knows what, have the guy from Quebec stay, and they don't. I just don't understand it.
Can I tell you my big problem with Hockey Canada?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know this is your show, but I'll give you my thing.
Not my show.
But Hockey Canada, they do the World Juniors, right? So let's say they do the World Juniors. It's Hockey Canada. This is their big moment, Hockey Canada's thing, and then they win. The juniors win, and you see all you hate to say it, but they're floaters on the ice, hugging the guys. We're number one, and they're hugging the guys.
Yeah, I see the picture. Who's that guy?
Who's that?
They're all in their suits, and now they're all out there. But if we lose, and what I mean lose is we get either silver or bronze, all of a sudden those guys kind of disappear, and let's trot out the kids all teary-eyed to TSN, tell us what happened and all that. And those guys
How's it feel to lose?
How's it feel to lose?
Oh,
but I'll tell you the thing that really, really bothers me is, remember that time we lost like we didn't do well. There was a span we didn't do very well, and they had the Hockey Summit, and so Hockey Canada turned around and said, "Well, there's something wrong with our program development." Hockey Canada never takes the blame themselves. They never turn around and say, well, maybe we need to rethink about how we picked the club. Maybe we didn't pick the right club. Maybe our coach didn't do as well as he did, because there was a couple times there were some really bonehead plays by the coach that cost them medals. They never take responsibility. They either throw it on the kids. They weren't disciplined enough. We have to have discipline over emotion. Discipline over emotion. Or if the kid gets a bad penalty, they'll blame
Remember the one time the kid got a bad penalty?
Yeah, the kid, somebody from Vancouver. It was the Canucks thing. And you look, they never take responsibility that we didn't do a good job getting either the right team or the right coach, or maybe we need to look on how we evaluate these kids. They never take responsibility. It's always the Pee Wee and the Bantam and the midget coaches aren't doing their thing, or it's the kids weren't prepared, which is the coach's fault, or they have too much emotion and not enough discipline. And they never take responsibility. They never say it was our fault we lost. And that I just can't stand that,
Well, we wish them the best of luck, and I get so nervous watching those games. I mean, they are great games, and they're covered great. I
think they made a big mistake though, not getting right. I think that's.
There's no doubt about it. I hope they must have a pretty good club when they don't pick a guy like that.
But I see guys,
we see them coming up.
But we see some guys that 38 games, 8 goals, and you're looking, going, well, you better be a pretty good checker then.
I hope.
And Shane Wright is. He's a good
checker.
He's a good checker.
He is Crosby. He won't be as good as Crosby, I don't think.
There are guys on that team. He had 39 goals. There are guys on that team that didn't score, that had 18 and 19 goals. And he had 39.
They must be good checkers. That's the only thing I can think of.
Donnie Marcotts, you hope.
Let's hope so. Well, we wish them the best of luck, and I'll be cheering for them. They're going to be playing in front of no fans, which will be tough.
Where are they playing?
Edmonton.
They're going to be playing in the bubble again, like the National Hockey League.
And good for Edmonton.
And they're going to, in the playoffs, they're going to play. The way they usually play. So it should be a good series, and I hope they pick the right guys. I know Shane Wright, he's a superstar in the making, and the people at Kingston, you'll
lucky.
see.
Yep. So we're running a little long, Dad. Do you want to do one more thing, and then maybe we'll talk about the divisions and hockey coming up next year?
Well, next week, yeah.
Next week. So, but I want to talk about, this is weird. So, I kind of go through the internet and just to see if there's things that we can talk about. And you, in your first year, set a record. The Bruins set a record.
Yeah, I couldn't.
That in your first year.
It's a record?
It's a record that still hasn't been broken. And the Bruins scored 7 power play goals.
In one game.
And they won 8-0. You had scored 7 power play goals and one.
That was my first year?
Yeah, first year, one shorthanded goal against Minnesota, and that was the infamous Forbes Boucher incident.
Oh my! I remember that one.
And you scored a shorthanded goal.
Sure. So you got 8 goals. You never scored an even strength goal.
That was, I would never do that on my second year. I would never beat anybody. And then how many goals?
8.
No, but how many power play goals do we score?
7. And only Edmonton, I think there's 3 other teams that have tied that, but nobody.
And you sometimes would say you changed up your power play if you were winning big. You think you did?
That was the first year. And then I went to, but the best is, after that, when I had the club, I would always put on, we'd get up 4-1 or something like that. I would always put on the third and fourth line, and that's how we got 11, 20 goal scores, 20 or more 20 goal scores. I would never beat a teammate nothing. Yeah. That was my first year.
Yeah, but you didn't, was this Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah,
was it in Minnesota?
Well, yeah, remember that was, they say, the Forbes.
Was that?
There was bad blood between the Bruins and
Now
Minnesota.
I know why. Then I never. Someday we'll talk about Forbes and Boucher. That was a long. That was a long one.
You know who the goalie was? Kenny Broderick.
Kenny Broderick
Got a shutout.
I remember I bought a clean air thing off him, but I didn't need it, and I had it wore out. I used to use it as a noise machine when I slept all the time.
Yeah, and Bobby, he led the team, had 4 assists.
4 assists.
Yeah, but then even more surprisingly, was in Colorado. You were playing Philly. Now you have to remember that year. So that would have been 79-80. Philly went 25-0-10 at the start of the year.
Imagine that.
They
couldn't get a ticket.
35. They went. They didn't lose a game in the first 35 games.
And they were the Broad Street Bullies.
And the Rockies scored. The Rockies beat you guys. We beat them 8-6, and we had 6 power play goals.
Oh, so 6.
6. Yeah, 6 power play goals, and you won 8. You won 8-6. So Hardy was letting them in from all over the place.
I knew a little bit about the power play. It's funny you say that. And who was the guy? And tell us who had the most scores. You told us.
Yeah, and out of all the guys, you had Bobby and Phil and Johnny Busick and Kenny Hodge, and then you had Lanny and everybody and Renee. You know who got the most points out of those teams? Kevin Morrison. Had 5 assists.
From Sydney, Nova Scotia.
The tough guy.
Yeah.
And he had a good shot from the point.
Yeah, he had 5 assists that game.
So what's your secret? So what's your secret sauce with power play?
That they were. Well, I knew the power play, and I remember Matty Hagen. Remember the guy Finn? He told me the new thing coming out is that they used to go to the side. You know how Gretzky used to go to the side, get over the blue line, go over to the side, and then pass it off. And I said, well, I got a pretty good power play going. And what we used to do is have a guy in front all the time. We with Dino Cicerelli, we used to have a guy in front all the time. And that was 6 power play goals?
6 power play goals in Colorado. You won 8-6 over Philly.
Okay. The best power play I ever had, ever, and I knew how to do the power play, evidently. I didn't know that till you told me. But was when I coached high school hockey at Pittsford High, Rochester. If the other team got a penalty, it was automatic goal. We had 2 guys from the point. Excuse me. We had Al Viverberg, who I call them screamers, ankle high, and John Hoff. He used to put it in, and Eddie Scott used to dig the puck out of the corner. Jay Hill would be in front, and Nisley was the playmaker. I mean, the other team would get a penalty. It was automatic, and they'd work it to get it to the point, and they just let those skippers. I hated that guys shooting from the point. And that was the best power play I ever had.
So let me get this straight. You coached the Boston Bruins and all, and the whole thing, and you say your high school team
was the best.
Was the best power play you ever had for the team.
Eddie Scott used to do all the work in the corners. Remember the time? You know how they flipped the puck to the guy? He saw the National Hockey League flip the puck. he went to flip the puck, and he drove it and hit the linesman right between the eyes.
Oh, when he flipped the puck.
yeah,
Andy
after the-
Skaggs, that was the referee's name. I remember
And
that.
then he always, and one time he went to spit on the ice, and the linesman spit. He said, all I was doing was he got a 10-minute misconduct.
He's spitting on the ice. The Reds ran into it. But we did, if you go on our Rock'em Sock'em Facebook page, and I'll put it up on our Twitter, that there's a great article talking about the Pittsford team and all the guys talked about it. So we'll put that up. And
What is that? How'd you get that?
I just kind of looking around, somebody sent it to me.
But I remember as a family, and Tim, you and I talked about this. I mean, we were with, obviously with Colorado, with the Bruins, with the Rochester, and all the other teams in between. We would be just as excited going to those high school hockey games, live and die those hockey games, as much as the Boston Bruins. Mom and I would go, and we'd be just as excited as anything.
Nervous and
How about we lost? Remember the time I lost to Aquinas?
Aquinas and
In overtime?
McQuaid. These are all private schools. And see, we were a public school. Pittsford was a public school, and all those schools were private schools. So they had a lot of money behind them, and we were the public school going in and playing against these guys.
No, the last year I was made coach. And last year I said I wasn't giving up that Pittsburgh club because I wanted it to crack.
Yeah, you were coaching the high school and the Amherst at the same time.
I wanted that
At the
Aquinas.
same time. I mean, how many times would that ever happen?
Oh, I could hardly wait to play Aquinas. The guy quit for the year. I wanted to beat him so bad.
Yeah, so there we go. Well, I put that up. I'll put that up, but maybe one time we'll go into about how you coached, how you got
I got in there,
how you got into that. But that for all the young coaches out there that are coaching, minor hockey, basically that's how you got started, right?
Yeah,
so.
we'll go through the whole deal. Okay, let's say we want to wish the Team Canada. It's coming up, and they're going to play in no fans. That's going to be tough. The fans really got them going. They're going to play in the playoffs like they did before, and they're going to be in a bubble, so they'll be ready. So I hope they win. I just wish they had picked Shane Wright.